We've been noticing a trend, and this time it's inside of two of Disneyland's most popular attractions. Two construction permits just showed up, both for attractions that are must-rides for most guests. Now, in isolation, these permits are nothing spectacular, but over the last couple of months, I've been spotting small upgrades, and they all seem to be connected. And if I'm reading these new permits correctly, Disney's newest trend just reached two of its top tier thrill rides. Brickey here, let's break down what's really changing inside of Space Mountain and Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. And if you're enjoying these construction mysteries, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That's the best way to keep going on these mysteries with me as we solve exactly what Disney's doing. And you know what we do? We study the past so we can better predict the future. And this is what we're doing. We're going into the future. All right, let's start with what we saw happening to Space Mountain in the near future. Disney just filed a permit to replace some ceiling lighting, a few door frames, and remove old anchor points inside of the show building. By updating lighting and electrical systems, Disney's keeping the show space reliable, smoother, and brighter for the long run. And honestly, with the prices going up and up and up, it's great to see them still investing in the attractions themselves, because everyone has been feeling the price increases and a lot of guests have been noticing the cutbacks inside of the park. So this is some proof that they're still putting money back into what matters: the park itself and the attractions that bring most people here. And by no means, this isn't anything that will change your next ride on Space Mountain. It's nothing that's gonna make it feel completely different overnight. But it is these small improvements that keeps the classics running at their absolute best. And like I pointed out, this isn't just happening at Space Mountain. Over in Disney's California Adventure, something similar is happening inside of Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. What's interesting about both of these permits is they're very specific. With Space Mountain, we learned that they're doing something in the Mars scene. So the work over there will hopefully brighten up that area of the attraction. But over here, it's even more specific. Shaft C, level 5. And inside of that shaft, they're going to be extending the platform and adding in new lighting and, as always, new electrical systems. The new electrical system is important because that could mean enhanced power and brighter projections. And if you didn't know, Guardians of the Galaxy here at DCA has 3 different elevator shafts. Each one has multiple levels. The first 2 are for load and unload. The other ones are all storage-driven levels. So again, this isn't about new show scenes or ride systems. It's about giving engineers safer and easier access to the guts of the ride, but in turn to also give us a better hidden experience. So when you think about how massive this attraction is, 3 full elevator shafts, each running multiple drop sequences every few minutes. Even small improvements like new lighting or a wider platform will make a difference. It's the behind the scenes work that keeps the thrills running on time and the breakdowns to a minimum. And just like we saw over at Space Mountain, it shows that Disney is still spending on the right things, the unglamorous parts that protect the guest experience, to make sure the rides run smooth, bright, and keep that downtime as minimal as possible. Odds are we'll never see this platform, but we will feel its impact every time the ride runs smoother and the reset is faster between drops. And if the show scenes are brighter, higher definition, that's always going to help take that immersion to a whole different level, which is something that screen-based rides have to constantly be aware of. How do they make the artificial feel more grounded in reality? So Space Mountain is having something happen to the Mars scene. Guardians of the Galaxy is having something happening on Shaft C, level 5. Let's tie these together. When you compare Space Mountain and Guardians, you're really seeing 2 generations of Imagineering design. One is where they're kind of figuring out, and the other is where they're getting close to mastering it. Space Mountain was ambitiously built in the 70s. The first one would show up at the Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World, and then a smaller one would show up here at Disneyland. Even though originally envisioned for Disneyland, Walt's idea for a Space Mountain was way ahead of what current technology would allow. With all that being said though, this is an attraction that over time has slowly had to adapt, making it to where the Imagineers would have to work inside of a tight footprint that was conceived not knowing what the future challenges would bring them. And by contrast, Guardians was born in the digital era, It's modular, it's adaptive, designed for future expansion. I mean, it did start out as the Hollywood Tower of Terror, and then was able to be modified to take on a new storyline, Guardians of the Galaxy, Mission Breakout, and can even be adapted to Monsters After Dark during the Halloween season. So it shows decades later how new attractions are designed in a way where the components can be swapped out in the event that there's a new story to tell. Which brings me to one of my favorite topics that nobody ever really talks about. Each one of these attractions is its own hidden ecosystem. Each of these attractions has an entire world that exists inside of it. It's 3 dimensions, but we only ever get to live in 2 of those dimensions. We obviously get to see dimension 1, which is the outer exterior, the facade that we all know and love and put Christmas ornaments on our tree of. But then there's the other dimension we get to experience, which is the ride path, what the guest sees, the show-facing element of the attraction. But there's a hidden dimension, the 3rd dimension, the one that we never get to experience. And through doing this channel and looking at all these permits, we slowly break down what that 3rd dimension is. Because between the track that we ride lives hidden layers and a hidden city, catwalks, lighting grids, electrical conduits, sensors, maintenance corridors, all full infrastructure built to deliver the story. And when correctly done, checks off that perfect type of design, the type of design that you never see. So on this channel and my other main channel, Hey Brickey, what we do is we explore the 3rd dimension of Disney attractions, the one we were never meant to see. That is, of course, with Space Mountain, for example. If you've ever rode it with the lights on, then you see it, warts and all. It's pretty wild. So what these types of projects show us is an operational philosophy, which is really reliability versus enhancement. Let me explain. So in an older attraction like Space Mountain, upgrades focus on keeping the ride dependable, refreshing lighting, replacing anchor points, modernizing the wiring. Like the anchor points that are being taken out could be for some sort of technology that is so void, no longer needing to take up space inside of the mountain. Or it could be the permanent removal of, yeah, we're not gonna do Ghost Galaxy anymore. Let's remove these anchor points because we no longer need to deal with this clutter inside of the hidden city, the 3rd dimension of the attraction. But in newer attractions like Guardians of the Galaxy, improvements are about refinement. See, the base level of knowledge when these attractions were built far extends what Space Mountain is capable of. Therefore, they were almost built in an open source nature, knowing that they could adapt and evolve with what comes next. So we're looking at expanding work platforms, adding control access, and optimizing what already works. So for example, when we looked at what they're doing to Rise of the Resistance a few weeks ago, that was all about putting in a new workflow so that cast members could properly service the Kylo Ren sequence. It wasn't about adding anything new for us to see, but a new way for the behind the scenes cast members to be able to edit the attraction. I don't know if those are technically cast members, they might be WDI or considered Imagineers, but you get what I'm saying. So with the new attractions, it's normally about optimizing the workflow. And on the old attractions, it's about preserving the quality and trying to rise them up to current guest expectations. So one keeps the foundation strong and the other keeps the operation efficient, both crucial to keeping a high quality show. And so even though we never see this work, we feel it every time we ride the ride because it runs smoother, it breaks down less, and it just looks cleaner. So updated lighting and electrical systems mean more consistent effects, safer access for maintenance, and ultimately a better experience for not only the guests, but the people that are required to service and maintain these attractions at the Disney standard. That's why I love examining this, because we're essentially looking at an invisible layer of Imagineering that protects the magic. You don't notice the change, you just sense that everything's working, and that's the way that it should be. You shouldn't have to think about the ride not meeting your expectations. It should just simply exist, therefore allowing you to get lost in whatever attraction or story you're experiencing at the time. Like, you shouldn't notice any of this. So in a fun task to compare Space Mountain to Guardians of the Galaxy, it proves one thing. Disneyland isn't just a resort full of rides, it's a living design system. And each system has its own unique set of challenges. But what we're noticing is all these different attractions designed over the many decades are all having the exact same thing happen to them. Therefore, Disney is looking for a consistency of show across the entire resort, both theme parks. And since every era of Imagineering adds new layers to that system, analog, digital, and whatever comes next, you have to wonder, are we doing just that, laying the groundwork for what comes next? With brighter projections, possibly higher image quality, I think Disney may be quietly planting the seed for some sort of future experience where all of the projectors that are being put in the park are going to be capable of doing something that's not possible today. So when we visit Walt's original philosophy that Disneyland would never be completed, that doesn't necessarily just mean new lands and new attractions. It means infrastructure as well. There should always be new ways to keep the old alive. And not just alive, but thriving. So in many ways, these hidden updates are modern examples of Walt's legacy. Behind the scenes designers quietly evolving the park so the storytelling stays timeless and consistent as you ride different attractions that were all built during different versions of Disneyland's historic timeline. Okay, so far these updates might sound small on their own, but let's break down the overall pattern that we're starting to see resort-wide. Because when we step back and we start to look at everything that we've discovered over the last couple of weeks, there is a through line that I believe appears on what is happening with all these different permits that are getting filed and almost a systematic release schedule of working their way around the park with all attractions that have something in common, projections and projections inside of attractions. So if you're new to this series or new to the channel, let me give you a quick refresh. I'll go as fast as possible. There's videos about all of these. The first time we noticed this was PhilharMagic, getting a lot of new lighting, new projection systems, and of course, new power. My theory, maybe this has something to do with the heavy lifting it's going to have to do being next to the Avatar construction area, and maybe PhilharMagic might get turned into a preview center. We are seeing preview centers pop out at the East Coast where they're already ahead of us on their construction timelines. PhilharMagic already got its work, but it seems like next in the queue is Main Street Cinema. Main Street Cinema was getting a lot of projections and sound equipment added to the opening day attraction. And in this one, they're putting in a lot of extra infrastructure work to be able to hold heavier equipment, both in the ceiling and on the ground. And then we saw projection equipment being licensed or permitted to go inside of Pirates of the Caribbean. This was listed as roof-mounted projection and lighting technology. And again, with more power. So what we're looking at with all of these is brighter show scenes with possibly added infrastructure or updated technologies. And then last week we saw our first exterior or outdoors permit filed when they filed a permit to upgrade the old antiquated projector that sits outside of the Matterhorn. This one got me excited because that projector has been struggling to do its duty. A modernized projector over there that needed more power and more infrastructure like HVAC and walkways and paths so cast members no longer have to do maintenance on a cherry picker for this projector. This shows a strong indication that this is indeed park-wide, and now we're going outdoors. But now we're starting to see projection equipment get updated inside of two of Disney's most premier thrill attractions. Now, the price on these isn't huge. So it definitely does look like Disney is going around and maybe spending some end-of-year money. But I do wonder, because all of these aren't just swapping out a light bulb or swapping out a projector, since every one has seemed to have something in common. New infrastructure needed to be able to carry the load of bigger, more advanced equipment, and also new power. So one would be able to draw a pretty smart conclusion that wherever these are popping up, you should look for the experience to enhance because it's going to take more space, more power, so therefore probably a much better projection or show scene. So different lands, different attractions, but same kind of work. Lighting, projection control, and power and infrastructure, which makes me wonder, do we need a higher resolution for maybe something Disney has planned for the not too far away future? I'm kind of falling in love with the idea of a magic band, no D, like, you know, AR glasses that would be able to give you a unique experience while surrounded around everybody else. And yes, I'm probably getting ahead with that prediction and projection, but it does seem, and this one we know for sure, Disney is quietly refreshing the entire park's show systems and proving how stories can be seen, heard, and you know what that means, how we'll feel these Disney stories when the clarity is even more real and the projections are bright enough to truly make us feel like something magical is happening just a sight away. So yeah, not big budget overhauls, but when you see it happening all around the resort, the money does start to add up. And these type of mid-tier projects, they're the kind that could use leftover capital before a fiscal year closes. But what a better way to spend that extra cash than giving each of us an extra better experience. So if this does keep up, and it keeps going from location to location and does indeed become park-wide or resort-wide like I'm predicting, that would mean that Disney would have the space to maybe do some sort of experience that goes across theme parks, across lands, and across attractions and nighttime spectaculars. So potentially the next time you watch a nighttime show or step onto one of these attractions, you might be seeing the early results of a much bigger plan. It's fun to speculate, right? If Disney does its job properly, it will be easy for you to walk through Disneyland and think the magic's all right on the surface. But every permit that we dig up reminds us that there's an entire story happening underneath. A truly fascinating and invisible layer of design, planning, and constant care. And right now, it feels like Disney's quietly rewiring the park's creative backbone. New lighting, projection systems, and infrastructure popping up everywhere. So yes, easy money goes on. It's about improving reliability. But maybe it's the groundwork for new shows or new nighttime spectaculars, and possibly some type of technology that follows us through our entire visit at Disneyland. Either way, it's proof Imagineering and Disney is still hard at work on shaping tomorrow's version of Disneyland. But the best part is, we get to track it together, one permit at a time, one clue at a time, and one story at a time. Breaking down that third dimension, the hidden layer of design that exists in all of these attractions we love so much. So if you're curious about all these quiet upgrades as I am, stick around, because next time we might uncover the project that ties the whole pattern together. Until then, you keep watching the magic, and I'll keep watching the permits. My name is Brickey. Thank you so much for showing up. And hey, how about checking out my other channel and watching this video right here, where I show you at Disneyland, the boats that look real are fake boats, and the boats that look fake are the real boats. Thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate you.